Peace, everybody. Sego. My name is Mumtahana. I am the mother of Muriyd, 2 Klaus Williams. And this video today is meant to be sort of a supplemental to the new article that that will be on the Beyond Clouds blog. So if you go to beyond-clouds.org/blog, you will see the article that has to do with this video, which is called Wishing No More, My Stand on Performative Allyship, I think is the title of it. But you'll find it there. And the reason I think it is necessary to make this video is because I have been in situations this past more than 3 years now when people's feelings get hurt for me saying the truth and you know, denying their so-called help, which they have proven to not be sincere about. People's feelings get really hurt, and then they try to lash out, or they try to, I guess, shine a negative light on me, and I just don't play those games. And so I have since learned to, instead of trying to be nice and keep things private, what I've learned is that these sorts of people like to keep things in the darkness and in the shadows. And again, my core belief is that the truth is not afraid of the light. And so here I am talking. And so when you go to the article, you will see that I am responding once again to things I've talked about throughout this journey towards justice for my son. And that is that there are a whole hell of a lot of performative allies out there who are not serious at all. They, in my opinion, use the traumas and heartaches of relatives of missing and murdered Indigenous people as step ladders to elevate themselves in careers of, you know, as lecturers. And, you know, you'll see them there at all the powwows and the marches, and, you know, they're getting articles done up about them in, you know, print media, have their photos on the covers of magazines, and, you know, these fantastical tropes of, you know, the strong woman warrior and all these sorts of things. And also they use our traumas and heartaches to build these organizations in which they receive money from the government for, and they do not use it appropriately. And I say that as someone who is on the outside, having been by my son's side in the work that he was doing, and that I've been continuing on his behalf, and then, you know, fighting for justice for the plotting and murder and conspiracy surrounding this whole situation with him. But also being on the inside. And I wrote about that in the article, or that's what I'm referring to in the article, is these people who claim to be advocates for Indigenous people and for, you know, MMIP. And I'm talking specifically in this regard about Indigenous people. I'm not talking about, you know, the phantom, you know, disastrous white man or anything. I'm talking about Indigenous people who are doing these things, and they're garnering like this support and these privileges and, you know, awareness to themselves by stepping on our backs to boost themselves. And so what prompted this article this time is because there's a woman who contacted me who I have been aware of for about over 2 years. Over 2 years. This is August. Yeah, maybe close to 2.5 years. And so she contacted me again a few nights ago. And okay. She contacted me again a few nights ago. And I would say for the past month and a half to 2 months, I guess, she contacted me a few times on Facebook Messenger, and quite honestly, I've been like over her and her, cohorts for a very, very long time. But, every blue moon she would reach out, and, a lot of times I would just kind of give a perfunctory like, gee, thanks, appreciate it. And just, and so, but the past month and a half or 2 months, might be close to, she contacted me, and she's like, now this was directly after, I think, one of the Reddit with Envy videos that I did. It could have been the one about Pete DeGroat or the one about Deke DeFreese, but I think it was directly after that, like a day or two, that she contacted me. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I seem to remember. But nonetheless, she contacted me, and she's like, she said, like, like, contact me or something like that. Contact me, I have something to tell you. First of all, those sorts of things never get me. It's like, if you got something to tell me, just say it. You know what I mean? But so I just ignored it. I did not respond. And then she hit me again saying, like, this guy, this indigenous dude, like, he just heard about this situation with 2 Clouds and he wants to help, and like he's upset and all this kind of thing. And I'm like, how is he just finding out 3 years later? Like, if this is your dude, how is he just finding out? And also, I have literally contacted hundreds of so-called, self-proclaimed indigenous rights activists, water protectors, land defenders, all these sorts of things, these beautiful romanticized titles, and agencies, organizations, let me tell you, politicians, indigenous politicians, and of course, not tons of non-indigenous also. But again, in this regard, I'm talking about indigenous people. And, to no avail. But also, like, how is he just finding out? If he has his foot in the mix, if he's, a large part of this circle, how come he's just now finding out? So I ignored it. But I did go and look at his Facebook page, because someone else had recently mentioned him to me. And I was equally unimpressed. And so I went and looked at his page, and I'll get back to that in a moment. But then she contacted me again. Oh, then she, without my permission, which I really, really hate for anyone who does this, but without my permission, she put me into a Facebook Messenger, like, group chat with this guy. And I don't even know if there were other people, because I never even checked it. It was just annoying because I was getting notifications, and I'm like, jeez Louise. So I got myself out of that group. And then a few nights ago, again, she contacted me and said something to the effect of, she said something like, it seems, she said something like, the word on the street is that people are wishing to honor 2 Clouds. And I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't even know what that means. Wishing, which means you're hopeful, but you're not actually doing anything. But wishing to honor justice for 2 Clouds. What does that mean exactly? I have no clue. So again, totally annoyed. And so my response to her is at the end of the article. But again, I wanted to make this video to get in front of things, because people's feelings get hurt and all that. I don't know if this is her, I did ask her to not reach out to me again, and she did, and I blocked her. So I really didn't even like read it. I just saw like the notification that pops up without you clicking on the message. So yeah, my thing is I have learned, some might say the hard way, that you can't play around with these kind of folks because they'll be out there trying to, you know, talk dirty about you. And so that, but also I think that it's important that there's a background, that people have a background to the article. So with all that being said, again, I first learned about her, this woman, back in 9 months after my son's murder. So at that time, I was brand new to this whole thing, y'all, and this side of it. I had never experienced a child being murdered before, and for sure not related to like a huge county cover-up that involved an indigenous nation, the government of an indigenous nation, the police department, and the medical examiner's office, and and the sheriff's department also. And I just really didn't know where to go, like what to do. I didn't know what to do with any of this. We're talking about land deeds, money, all this sort of thing. And I had all this information from my son, and that is documented proof. And I'm like, how do I handle this? So I'm just going to everybody I can think of, from government organizations, the FBI, you know, of course, indigenous rights groups, his so-called, you know, friends and associates who claim to be indigenous rights activists and advocates and allies, and, you know, just all these things. I'm going to lawyers, I'm going to organizations. I remember at one time I drove 3 hours to New Jersey, jumped on the PATH train over to Madison Square Garden, walked all the way to the Javits Center in the pouring down rain. It was December or January, and like freezing cold, just because they had this huge conference of organizations there. I forget what they call it. And everybody I talked to, I mean, there are like tons of organizations there that are supposed to be for like justice. They're justice leagues or what have you. Nobody. Nobody. It was crazy. I mean, I was grasping at just grass, because I was just like falling, like, yo, I can't get up. What's happening here? And so, you know, I was doing all sorts of things, reaching out to people, but I was also, you know, I had the blog, so I was constantly writing articles. I was making videos, all these sorts of things. I'm like doing crazy research. I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and, you know, 4 and 2 together, and just all this stuff going on. And so I would also send out blasts, like text blasts, email blasts, messenger blasts on Facebook. I mean, like, it was a constant, and it still is a constant. But certainly back then, I didn't know. I was just trying to find my way, bumping into a wall, and, you know. And so during one of those, during all that time, one of my son's associates, who, he seems to really have good intentions for my son, has love for him. He hit me up and said, you know, this guy, that my son had actually gone to Mashpee, Massachusetts. There's a whole lot to this, y'all. So if you're interested, just go to the videos and go to the blog, and you can find that information. But the guy that my son had just been elected war chief of the Ramapough Muncie Lenape Nation, and which he was an enrolled member. My people are Mohawk, his father's people are Ramapough Lenape. And so he was an enrolled member of the Ramapough, but he did a lot of great work with both the Ramapough and the Mohawk. And so he had just been elected war chief for the Ramapough. And so this dude who he used to be the head of C-Pain, but his people kicked him out because they got word that he was you know, bullying and threatening other Lenape people here on the West Coast. That guy had come up sneaked up onto the land where my son's body was found about 2 weeks later. The religious land, which is the first piece of land that my son secured for the Ramapough people before fighting through litigation and winning back dozens of stolen land for them. And so the guy came up there making threats. My son's job as war chief was to try to bring safety to the people. And so the weekend of July 4th in 2022, he went up to Mashpee because another woman, who I'll get to later, an indigenous woman, had told him that she put together a meeting for him up there with some chiefs who was going to help him, you know, get this situation under control. But when he got there, there was actually no meeting. And so my son's associate contacted me and said, listen, this guy is bullying everybody, which I was well aware of because of my son. But also when he was murdered, like a ton of people were contacting me saying, I think it was this guy, you need to look in this guy. And so his associate told me, you know, contact my sister because he was also behaving that way with her. And she's this and she's that, and this is her occupation, and, you know, she can help you. So I did that. I reached out to her through Facebook Messenger, and, you know, she was just kind of like, she responded with just like a greeting, and that was it. Just kind of like, hey, basically. I don't remember if she said like Grand Rising or something like that. I don't know. But so then a couple of months or so after that, when I was doing yet another blast, I sent an article, the article that I was blasting. I think it was why is no one talking about two clouds or something like that, also on the blog. And I produced it as a newsletter. And so I sent it to a bunch of people. She was just one of them who I sent it to. And so this time though, she contacted me. So we're getting into where this other woman became involved. She contacted me via Facebook Messenger, and she's basically like, who is this person? Like, what happened? And all this kind of thing. Oh, let me mention, she's also Ramapough. And so she's like, who is this person? Da, 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 da. Like, how come I never heard of this? Which is weird. Again, how are you in the mix and you never heard of this before? And so she actually shared it onto her page. And again, at the time, I was like, I need help, y'all. I need help. Thankfully, I realized that I did not need their help. And but you know, at the time, she shared it to her page, and I was like, all right, cool. She knows people. Somebody's gonna see it maybe, and they can help me, or at least tell me which way to go. You know what I mean? And so she did that, and then I don't remember, I think it might have been the same day, because somebody responded on her page with like, you know, angry emoji or whatever you call that thing that you can click on Facebook. And I don't know, she said something like, who is this? Like, what is this? Something happened, whatever. I don't know. But she was like clearly upset. So then I want to say Miss 1 and Miss 2. Miss 1 is the sister. Miss 2 is this other lady, her friend. And so Miss 1 hit me up, and she's like, is it okay if, you know, I call you through video? and I want to have this person on the line with us because she's pretty pissed off, and you know, we need to know what happened, type of thing. So I was like, cool, because again, I'm soup, like, oh God, creators finally sending me somebody, you know, this kind of stuff. I think creator did send them to let me see, girl, stop thinking you need these folks and do this on your own. And so they hit me up through video, and immediately out the gate, Miss Two is like on fire. She's just like spazzing, like, what happened here? Who is this person? I never heard of this. What happened? Oh no, we're not taking this. All this kind of stuff, right? Pissed. Come to find out, they are the heads of a indigenous task force, and which their focus, I think, is MMIW, but of course any person who something has happened to, they have concern about. I'm still not actually sure what they do, to be quite honest. I'm still not sure what they do, or like, do they like make people aware? I don't know what they do, and that's not shade. I just honestly don't know what they do. And so, you know, they're going on, and their child, when I tell you, they were peed off, it seemed, right? And then they're like, don't worry, sister, because I'm like, you know, I've been trying so hard to find help. I can't get anybody to help me and all this. And they're like, sister, don't worry about that. We here with you now. We we got your back. We're not standing for this. You don't have to worry no more. You're safe with us. We're gonna do it. And I literally started crying because I was so overwhelmed, like, oh, finally. Mind you, this is only 9 months in, child. We over 3 years now, and I'm just like, child, bye. But so all that's going on, and you know, Miss One is like, tell us everything. So I start telling, and we ended up being on this call for like 4 hours, and I really thought something was gonna come from it. So much so I didn't even go to class that day. And so you know, we kicking in everything. All of it wasn't solely about the situation per se. You know, we like kick it about different things and giggle and all this kind of stuff. But overall, it was about this situation. I'll say 3.5 hours at least was about the situation itself. And the other half hour were sort of on the outskirts of that. So, you know, like, girl, you've been going through a lot. You need to de-stress. There's this place where we can go to like break up stuff and relieve stress and all this. I'm like, ooh, girl, I need that. That sort of thing. So, you know, we kicking it and everything. And I start noticing, in me telling her everything, which of course I wasn't saying everything, but so let me say this. I don't know these people, and even though I'm overwhelmed, then I usually, and I'm trying to break out of this, but I usually start people at 100, where most people start you at 0 and you got to work your way up. I always start people at 100. I take people for who they say they are, and then if I start noticing stuff, then you kind of work your way down. It's not really going to happen in this world because this world sucks. But nonetheless, they're saying they're going to do this, and they look the part. Miss One looks the part, honey. Her look, you know, her regalia and everything, always at the front of the marches and all this kind of thing. I'm like, oh, maybe she really about that shit. And so, but the thing is, all that time, those 9 months, I had been getting punked by people who would swear that, yeah, they are these advocates, and they do know 2 clouds, and they care for 2 clouds. So we're going to help you. Give me all the goods. So I would tell them what's happening, because if you're going to help me, you need to know something. But it turned out all they would be doing is fishing for information. And then some of the times, a lot of the times, they would be like trying to debate with me. Like, oh, I don't think that's what happened because I know his family. And what does that mean? Like, people knew Jeffrey Dahmer and his family too, but here's history. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I didn't really know these women in that regard. So I knew that I needed to be on, you know, have my third eye open. But by the same token, I'm giving them this information. And what I start noticing is that this one is constantly like, oh, I know him. Oh, yeah, I know her. Oh, yeah, I know him. He comes to the powers all the time. Oh, yeah. So I'm like thinking to myself, like, okay, like, she know all these people. Is she really going to help me? These her folks, you know what I mean? And so I'm talking and blah, blah, blah. And then I mentioned the name of the woman who told my son that she said at this meeting actually had nods. And let me say to you, the drive between Mawa to Mashpee on a regular day is like 4 hours one way. We're talking about the 4th of July weekend. And so somebody said to me one time, like, oh, I don't think that she like meant to do that. I think that she got in over her head telling him that she had put it together and then just didn't say anything because she was like embarrassed. I'll call bullshit. So this big, strong pop, she's on like all, you know, the magazine covers and doing, you know, have all the photo ops and, you know, she's in her regalia looking big and strong and tough. Like, yeah, I'm that woman. I do anything a man could do type of stuff, you know. But she's afraid to tell somebody, I'm so sorry, I wasn't able to get it done. And then allow him to drive at least 8 hours round trip. Come on. And so I said to Miss 1 and 2 that, yeah, I was hearing about this name too. Because I didn't want to come out and say, this is what I know. So I just, because I'm filling them out. So I said, well, I've been hearing this name too. And she's like, oh, she don't have anything to do with it. She's with us. She's part of the task force. How in the fuck is she a part of MMIP task force? And this is 9 months later. And you 3 are the heads and she ain't say nothing to you? And this isn't just somebody who she's heard of. 2 Clouds is someone who she knows personally. They have, you know, done work together before. Listen, this is somebody she knows. And when this happened with him, even though people weren't doing a damn thing to try to help, there was like a shockwave that went through, you know, the I would say Indian country here, at least on the East Coast. And so for sure she knew. And one of her very good friends is also a good friend of my son's. And he was broken the hell up about this. And so there's no way she did not know. Like all her little peeps knew 2 Clouds and knew what happened. And everybody is doing RIPs all over Facebook except her and except for the other people who plotted against him and murdered him. And so she says that, and she's like, you know, no, she didn't have anything to do with it. She's part of the task force. And so now I got it. So I said, oh, okay. And I just left it alone. But now, you know, we're still going on, but I'm still like, okay, I'm going to see what I can find out, since they apparently are some sort of fixture within this whole movement thing, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to kick it with them, see what I can find out. Maybe I can get some sort of help from them. I know I ain't trusting them so far as, you know, too much, because you know all the people. So come on. So we're kicking into everything. So those things start to awaken me, right? And so we're going on, and then I start noticing something else. They start trying to scare me up. Now, I don't know if they really feel this way or not, but this guy, C-Pain dude, people are scared shitless of this guy.
After rewatching this video, and this section of the video particularly, I realized that this subject really needs its own time and space, so that I may go deeper into details with receipts, because you all know how I do. So stay tuned.
But in talking to the women, Miss 1, Miss 2, they are trying to scare me up about this guy. And they're like, sister, you're in danger. You're in danger. You know, you really got to watch yourself. Like, I don't know who you have up there to help you and all this kind of stuff. And then this one is like, you need to give us everything that you have. And we're going to give it to this woman that we know who lives in Canada. And she'll keep it safe. I'm like, what? Like, I'm just listening to them. And I'm kind of like, you know when somebody say something off the wall and you're like, but in your mind, you're like, did you just say what I think she's like all these things are going on in your mind where you're like, this can't be serious, right? So I'm just listening to her and she's like, you know, like when we hang up or whatever, she wanted to know if it was okay to bring this person into like the group chat, because now, of course, we're a group on Facebook or whatever. I mean, the Messenger. And so I was like, okay, fine. Because again, I'm still trying to figure out how I can get some help out of these people. And like, are they really going to like try to do something or what? Like, you know, I'm just trying to figure everything out. Because some people just are the way they are. But you may still be able to, you know, get help or something like that, or find out information. And again, I'm still reeling from it all. It was all just very heightened. It was very, very emotionally heightened for me that during that conversation and afterwards. And so when they brought her into the group chat, it was weird because she came in as an anonymous. So there was like no photo. I don't remember what the handle was, but it wasn't like a name that I remember. So it was just really weird to me. And it's like, they want me to give everything I have. First of all, why would I need somebody to keep anything? But then to this whole anonymous person, you know, that happened or whatever. And the other thing that was a humongous, like big fiery flag, you know, was they told me that there were a couple of organizations that they were like attached to, not like member or anything, but they like knew the people, and that we could reach out to them like for help. And so, but they said the issue is it is a lot of paperwork, and that we would have to, it would be an all-day endeavor, and that we really need to synchronize our time so that I could drive down to Philly, and that, you know, we could sit there and do all this paperwork, because it's so much. Like, you cannot do this on your own. We need to help you. So I was like, okay, cool. I don't mind driving to Philly. I drive all over the place, like all the time. And so, fine. So then, you know, we end up hanging up, and they're like, don't worry, we got you, sister, and all this kind of thing. And I guess the next day we like chatted back and forth through Messenger. Maybe another day after that or something like that. And then Miss One hit us up and said that, you know, she found out that she has an issue, a health issue, and that she would have to take some time to herself, basically. In other words, she wasn't going to be able to help me right now. So, you know, I'm empathetic, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I hope you be okay, and all this kind of stuff. So she's like, yeah, you know, it's cool. Just don't tell nobody, and I'm dealing with this stuff, whatever. So I'm like, fine, like, no problem. But the whole time she's on Facebook, going on vacation and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay. I don't know what this means, but all right. And then I finally realized, so that kind of fell off. Now, Miss Two and I, we were chatting back and forth for like another few days or something like that. And throughout the 2+ years, every now and again, she'll like hit me, like months in between. So she may have hit me on maybe, I would say, maybe 4 separate, like maybe 4 separate, times. Something like that. Not text messages, but different time spans. And like one time I remember she sent me the link to something that I had already known about, though, because somebody had sent it to me and just told me to sit on it, don't say anything yet. So I knew about that, but she was trying to help. It just like another time she just hit me out the blue and was like, I'm telling people about your story. Again, if I recall, that was probably related to something I had just put out, a video I just put out. Oh, and she sent me the link to this indigenous podcast guy who actually hit him up, never heard anything back. So stuff like that. But other than that, the help thing was not happening. And so after I finally realized, like, they're not trying to do nothing, I went and created, they told me about these 2 organizations. So I actually reached out to them myself. When I tell you, I emailed them from my phone, and it was like maybe 10 minutes each. And that's because I'm a slow texter. And it was, the one contacted me within a half hour. And I think the second one may have hit me back the next day or something like that. Neither one of them can help me. But that was just crazy to me because they were adamant that this is going to be so much paperwork and it's going to be an all-day endeavor. Like, you need us to do this. But it was none of that, okay? And again, they just fell off. So, and I will reiterate to you, they are supposed to, not only are they supposed to be heads, the 3 of them together, but these 2, because, the call situation, they're supposed to be the heads of a indigenous MMIP task force. Like I'm still trying to figure out what these so-called advocates consider advocating. What is advocacy to them? And child, it is not just them. I'm telling you, it is not a coincidence, and it is not just me. This is across the board. And this one national, this indigenous national law enforcement organization that I'm a member of, I spoke with the head of it because when I couldn't get any information from anywhere, like hitting up these indigenous rights organizations that are, funded by the government and stuff like that, I'm telling you, nobody could give me any information. All they would say is like you would hear them like confused on the phone, like, I'm not sure, and like, I'm so sorry, you have my condolences, but I don't know how we could help you. But you are an MMIW organization. This is what you do. This is what you proclaim to do. So what do you mean you can't help me? You don't have resources to send me to. You can't tell me where else to go. This is over and over again. One of them actually told me that she didn't know how to help me, but that she would have her lawyer call me. Her lawyer, who is an indigenous rights lawyer, calls me and could not give me any information either, nor tell me where to go for help. What are they doing? I think that all of this is just fluff to make it seem like, oh no, we're growing as a nation. We're really trying to help the indigenous people. No, you're not. You're not. And again, that includes the indigenous heads of these so-called organizations and agencies. And let me say also that Miss Tu is also the head of an organization supposed to be an indigenous rights organization where they advocate for missing and murdered indigenous people. Where? Because we are over 2 years in. Let's see, so we're nearly 2.5 years in from the time that we had that conversation, and there's nothing. Yo. So as I said, she recently was hit me up about this person wants to help me and all this kind of thing. And so I go to his Facebook page because somebody else had mentioned him to me very recently before she did. And I went to look on there, and when I tell you, child, he just looked like a regular smuggler. Yet another person saying they advocate for indigenous people and MMIP, but they have nothing to show for it. There's no resources on their pages at all. There's like no resources. There's like nothing. They're just photos. Me at the march, me at the powwow, me and my regalia, me and my peeps. You know what I mean? That's all it is. And who do I see about 2 or 3 posts in? Miss One. How is he just now finding out? The heads of a task force. We over 3 years in. Well, at that point, we were 3 years in, and he just finding out. But then you all don't know how to do your jobs, and he must not really be as much in the know as you're trying to portray him as being, because he would have known a long time ago. In a nutshell, I guess, the article that I put out was to say once again that I do not deal with people who are not truly for indigenous people. And folks like this woman who wants to sporadically hit me up and be like, oh, I've been telling people about you. Oh, what about this person? Oh, you should call this person. If you really wanted to help, you would have done so a long time ago. If you really could have helped, or, you know, I don't even think, now I'm going to say this. Out of the 3 heads of the task force, I think that, so neither of the others, the first one who set my son up, she has been super silent this entire time. Miss One, she shared that newsletter that time in April 2022, and that's all I've known about for her doing in regards to 2 Clouds. And I'm going to reiterate, she is also Ramapough. This is how they rock. Sorry to tell you, I really pray that their youth take a different path. But the adults, child, and then Miss Two, out of the 3 of them, I think she's the one who has some sort of like care about the situation. But I really think she don't know. I think she's not interested in helping, because how fucking hard is it to be like, since I really don't know where to go, but I do know people, so let me make these calls for you. Let me give you these numbers. Let's do something where I can help, rather than just doing nothing and every now and again saying, hey, I'm telling people about you. Hey, how about this guy? It's been 3 years and he just now found out about you because I didn't say a damn thing. But, I mean, call him. No, I'm not calling him because y'all look corny. None of you have anything to offer me, nor indigenous people, period, aside from perhaps bringing awareness. But the civil rights movement didn't pop off and help millions of people of all races and ethnicity because they simply marched to Washington. For Afro-Indigenous people, a lot of us came up in an exclusively, or damn near exclusively, Afro-American reality, and that we learned about the greats, and people like me who I was born and reared in this revolutionary identity. And so I studied, you know, Mamie Till Mobley and, you know, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey. I could remember being in high school, and one of my teachers, my English teacher, would give me time at the end of the class period once a week, and I would teach my class about these greats and telling them, y'all need to get it together and stop acting like goddamn fools, you know? This is a reality I came up in, and this is how I raised 2 Clouds, which is why he was so effective and so, you know, accomplished in what he did for Ramapough people. And not just that, even in his environmental work, you know, being instrumental in deading a $1 billion pipeline venture that was going to run from Albany, New York, clean through Mahwah, New Jersey, clean through a cemetery, an ancestral cemetery of the Ramapough, down to Linden, New Jersey, and back up again. He was instrumental in deading that. There were a lot of things that he did, but it's because of how we were reared and how I literally put years and years of my life on the line in order to raise him in that tradition, that Black radical tradition. And we work differently. We fight differently. We understand revolution differently. We are ready to sacrifice differently. There are ways that we are very different from our indigenous cousins. And I really think that a big reason why these indigenous people who knew two clouds won't do anything is because I think there are multiple things that are very prevalent. I think that without trying to, I think he showed them out, because these are people who have been in the movement for years before he came on the scene. And like that, he started making a huge difference within the communities and things, right? So which made them look like the incompetent folk that they really are. None of them accomplished anything remotely close to what he did before him, during him, nor after him. So I think they feel like incompetent folk. They're not going to stand up for him because, like, well, damn, he did all that in a little time. Why y'all niggas ain't do nothing? Like, what have you done? I think their little dumb egos, I think their little weak egos and insecurities caused them to not want to do anything. I definitely think the fact that he is an Afro-Indigenous leader who loved his Afro side also, who loved being of African descent, and who never ever shunned it. Like, if you look at him, I've had people say, well, they didn't think that way about him because some of us are dark skinned too. Yeah, but the difference is you consider yourself a dark-skinned Indian. You consider two clouds a dark-skinned Black man who is pretending to be Indian. And what I always say to them is, if he was a fake Indian and did everything that he did, then what the hell that make you? If he's fake, what are you? Like, what's below fake? I don't know. So with that being said, you can go and read the article if you like. beyond-clouds.org/blog, and do whatever you will with it. This is the truth, and I stand on it. I have no fear.